I'm Peter from Summit Bicycles. I'm here to show you how to change a flat today. The first basic tools you'll need, obviously a tube to fit your tire. Most road bikes are 700 by 23. It's kind of general metric sizing. A tire lever to remove the tire from the rim. And a pump in order to get some air back into it when you're done. We're going to be working on the rear wheel today because it's slightly more complicated than the front, so when you're ready, a front will be very easy. The first thing is to shift into one of the lower gears on your rear set of gears here. Then release the brakes. Different brakes have different release mechanisms, but they're usually pretty easy to spot. Just a little lever to flip open. When you're ready, go ahead and open your quick release, just like that. Pull your derailleur back, and the wheel should drop right on out. First step is just removing the hardware from the end of the valve and setting that aside. We don't want to litter, you know. Now normally, you would have a flat tire at this point, but if you're just changing the tire, go ahead and deflate it. It helps a little bit to put some pressure on the tire just to get all the air out, so it's a bit easier to work with. From there, holding the valve away from you, push the tire in toward the center of the rim, and just work your way around to the valve. This is just so that everything's nice and loose, and you don't have to struggle with it. Grab your tire lever, and insert the curved end into the tire underneath the bead near the valve. You'll lift it up just like that, and as you start to slide along, the bead will pull off of the rim. Some of them are a little bit tougher, and there are differences in different tire and rim combinations, so allow for a little bit of variance in how difficult it's going to be to pull it. As you work around, it's going to become increasingly easy to slide it off. From there, just start pulling the tube out. Make sure you find a good place to grab it. If you're at home, you can pump this up to try and find where the hole is. Sometimes it's pretty obvious, other times it's just a slow leak. So it's not really necessary to do that. Next step is just pulling the tire off of the rim, just as you did before, but you can do it by hand this time. What you'll want to do is to run your fingers on the inside of the tire to inspect for any burrs or other debris that might have caused the flat. At the same time, you can check the condition of the tread on the top, just to make sure that you're not nearing the end of the life. Once you've done that, you'll want to inspect the inside of the rim as well, just so that there aren't any exposed spoke holes or burrs in the rim or any damage to it. Now you're ready to install the new tire. The professional touch is to start with the tire label at the valve opening in the rim. So go ahead and seat one side of the tire. This can usually be done by hand without any tools necessary. Just push it on over with your thumb. You grab your boxed tube, pull it out. Sometimes they're a little sticky, sometimes they're loose like this one was. It makes it a little bit easier to get some air into it. So what you'll do is once you've unscrewed the top piece, just go ahead and give it a little tap on the top to break the seal. What that does is it just makes it easier for the air to get inside. You grab your pump, attach it to the valve, secure it with the lever, and just give it one quick pump. That little bit of air really does make that much of a difference. Where you'll go from here, take the valve stem with the tube and insert it through the valve hole in the rim. and just go ahead and work the tube around, pushing it up inside of the tire. The tube should sit between the tire and the rim. Once you're done there, again, point the valve stem away from you. Grab the other bead of the tire and start to push it in around the rim. As you work your way around, use your thumbs to push it over, pushing toward the valve stem all the while. As you get closer, you'll notice the bead will get tighter and tighter. Toward the end, you'll find a cord across it, and that's where it gets a little bit tougher. Now I know some of you will reach for your tire lever at this point, but trust me, you don't want to be doing that. You're more likely to punch a hole in your tube than you are to get the tire on the rim. So go ahead and take your open hand, grab the rim on both sides, and start to roll it over. As you roll it over, the bead will move its way onto the rim until it's eventually seated. The final step in seating everything properly is to grab the valve stem and just push it up inside of the tire. That makes sure that the tube is inside the tire. Now sometimes it's a good idea to just push the tire aside and check the inside of it to ensure that the tube is not underneath the tire at any point so that it won't pinch on you. Once you're sure that everything's good, you can go ahead and put the valve stem nut onto the valve. Just go ahead and screw it up just until it touches the rim there. That'll make pumping it up a bit easier. Insert the pump back onto the valve and start giving it a pump. As you're pumping it up, make sure that the tire is seating properly. What that means is that it's not bulging off in any particular place, nor is it sitting down in any other. There's usually a line running around the tire that you can line up with the rim itself. Most road tires are going to run up to about 110 to 120 psi. It will always be designated on the side of the tire. So for this one, we're going to go up to about 115 psi. And this is really where the advantage of a floor pump comes into play. It's much easier to do even with one hand. Once you're done, just go ahead and release the valve. With these Bontrager pumps, they just come right off. Other ones take a little bit of working around in order to release the seal. Then screw down the nut on the valve, just so that it's snug, so that nothing rattles around, because we all want a smooth sounding bike. From there, screw up the last little bit of the valve and go ahead and install the dust cover. There you have it, a nicely replaced tube, and all you have to do is put it back on your bike in the opposite process of what we did before. Go ahead and make sure that the chain is around the cogs and lift the wheel up into the bike. These SRAM derailleurs, as I'm working with here, tend to be a little bit more finicky than the Shimano ones, so you'll just have to learn how to work with it. As you close the quick release and the brakes, you're set to go. So that's how you change a fly.